At the General Assembly at the end of last year, we thanked you, Martin, for being our president for 3.5 years. We welcomed you, Jon, as our new president. As I said in our newsletter, we would like to run a story on the accomplishments of the last couple of years and on the outlook for the next years. And I would like to start with you, Martin, by asking what Euralarm's biggest successes were during your presidency.
Oh, thank you, Martin. That's a tricky question to fire away first thing in the morning. I think the biggest success, shall we say, reflecting on my presidency of Euralarm, has been clearly quite a few changes happening within the marketplace, not least of which COVID, which has brought a real challenge, of course, to everybody across all associations and all businesses at this moment in time. I think we can be proud of what Euralarm has achieved, though, and how we've achieved it. Clearly, the first year or 18 months of my presidency, we were still having our face-to-face meetings, and we were putting in place things to move things forward as far as Euralarm has been concerned. I've been a member of Euralarm for over 12 years. During that time, we've seen a number of key changes. And I guess probably the proudest moment, or the key moments that I see that we've developed, has been the professionalism of the staff. As you know, we've taken on some new staff. Paul joined us, and Michael and Benoit on the technical side have really strengthened Euralarm, I think, and put it on the map as far as the political interface is concerned. And I'd say that's probably the key element there. But that's not to say, of course, the members themselves have had their own issues, clearly with COVID, and clearly even before COVID, in terms of the time that member companies allow their staff to actually carry on with Euralarm work. That's been a big challenge across for the last, probably 5 or 6 years. The amount of time that members have, a lot of members give up their own personal time to actually work for the good of Euralarm. So I think those are the big challenges, shall we say, are the big opportunities that we've overcome. And I think we've proven that we've overcome it by the fact that we've had new members joining. So, you know, a good stream of members joining us over the last 3 or 4 years has shown that we've taken Euralarm from strength to strength, even during this pandemic time. So I think that's the brief answer for you, Martin.
Okay, thank you, Martin. And Jon, where do you see the main challenges and opportunities for Euralarm within our industry for the upcoming years?
Well, I go back to what was stated just before, which is, I think, changing from face-to-face to online has been a challenge. I think our answer was quick, and I think we've adapted it well. However, we're still always hoping that it will go back to normal. And I think that new normal will not be the old normal. And therefore, for us, some of the challenges are to solidify the organizations to the need of all parties. I think, Martin, you mentioned it absolutely correctly. A lot of our organizations, number one, have gotten used to people not traveling and discounted the budgets accordingly. On the other side, there is a lot more work when you work remotely. The amount of time that you spend is, I would state, more concentrated. I think here, having our members available for all of the subjects that are coming up is a challenge. And if I take a look very specifically in the EU, a lot of new subjects are coming up, which are touching us: cybersecurity, interoperability, artificial intelligence. And some of those subjects, we don't necessarily have the specialists in-house. So I think their part of the challenges will be securing enough know-how to be able to deal with the subjects that are coming up.
Going on with that topic, the Green Deal was the overall topic of our last industry forum we organized last year. The Green Deal will require a transition of Europe in many, many ways. And how has the fire industry prepared itself for the transition? Did it prepare itself for the transition? Jon, Martin, who may I get the floor?
If you want to start, Martin, you're welcome.
I'll kick off on that. I think as Jon quite rightly says there, looking in our own industry, should we say, we don't necessarily have these experts, should we say, and our companies don't necessarily have these experts going forwards. The Green Deal, I think, is an interesting challenge, certainly at the moment, as we've all seen the price of energy over the last few weeks has gone absolutely vertical in the marketplaces. And I'm not so sure some of these green deals are going to move as fast as certainly some of the green people would like at this moment in time. So I think that's one that we need to watch and see where things go. I think the best thing we can do as far as Euralarm is concerned is obviously advise members. I think it's very difficult for us to change the political landscape. We're not big enough, and we're not a big enough player as far as that's concerned. So I think it's really a question of the Euralarm and certainly the professional team with Michael and Benoit keeping an eye on things and putting a flag out to people to say this is coming down the road, which I think we're getting quite good at doing that. And how best to advise our members, our member companies, how they can implement the various rules and regulations as they come on the horizon there. I think that's the key as far as that's concerned. Don't know how you feel on that one, Jon.
Well, I think we do. A lot of the companies do have challenges. Nobody was expecting that the Green Deal would be pushing things so fast. And whether it will be able to accomplish as much as it would. One thing that it did is push a lot of subjects to go much faster. Circular economy isn't new, eco-design isn't new. However, it's being pushed faster than a lot of our organizations were expecting, and therefore I think it does bring some challenges to our members. Not all members, maybe some are much further ahead, but I still think there we do have some challenges in the timing, not the goal. I think everybody agrees that the goal is a laudable goal. I think the other part that we've seen is what may be ecological may not be so easy to handle for certain of our fields. One of those is extinguishing. We're using gases to extinguish fires, and those are being considered as non-ecological, and that transition in finding new material to be able to extinguish fires. On one hand, it sounds really good that we're being ecological. On the other hand, we need to make sure that we don't threaten the market.
One other trend that I would like to touch is the digitalization. Due to digitalization, there's a huge interest in topics like smart buildings. What will these smart buildings bring for our industry?
That really is that's an interesting.
I like your questions. I like your questions.
Yeah. I mean, on a personal note, I can remember smart buildings 30 years ago, and to tell the truth, they haven't actually got very much smarter in the last 30 years. This has been on the horizon for a long, long time, and it's so far away on the horizon. I think it's still a fair way away. We are moving slowly in that direction, but I think it's a tricky one. I mean, certainly a number of the businesses are moving, shall we say, to try and optimize this digital economy and the digital world as far as that's concerned. But I think if you just look at our little bubble involved in the building, which is the fire and security world, if it then reaches out to the energy management side of things and others, we're still all struggling, I think, to actually get the complete digital platform that everyone is hoping for. I think what's more interesting is probably the way the global economy is changing and how manufacturing is moving back to a number of the home countries. I think that's probably a more interesting topic going forwards as to the changes in the global market and where products are being manufactured and where they're being used. I don't know how you feel on that one, Jon.
See, for me, maybe I see the opposite. It's clear. Your point, your last point is clear. However, I don't know how much a Euralarm can do about that, positive or negative. But it is a fact that this pandemic showed some of the problems tied to globalization, and therefore the whole transport sector gave us great difficulties. That's clear. Seeing the dependence of certain parts of the world and seeing how that pandemic was touching those, and the lack of availability of simple things that everybody thought that's obvious. I mean, who considers chips? However, the automotive industry is having problems producing cars because of those little things. So that's clear, and I think the logistics will certainly change in our industry. I think, to go back to the question on the smart buildings, you're right. I also already in the early 90s was dealing with smart buildings. However, the one thing that I do see is with the EU's targets and some of the programs that they have, one of them is the EPPD. We've put in building management systems. They refer to fire more than they do to security. So I think there we would have an opportunity to jump on this, but I'm not sure how quick our industry is in trying to integrate themselves into a larger ecosystem when they've been defending the fact that they need to be standalone for the last maybe 50, 60 years. So there, I think there's a mentality change that will have to occur within our organizations and within our field in both security and fire. And I think that would certainly be an interesting outcome of this Green Deal if we can push ourselves in there and jump out of our own blockers that we've built over the years.
Okay. One more, with the trades coming back to Europe, or the production coming back for a part to Europe. There are several, if not all, European countries suffering from a lack of qualified personnel. There's there could be a future problem. One of the strategic topics that Euralarm defined a couple of years is raising the training and qualification standards for the industry professionals. But will there be enough professionals? Is there a role for Euralarm in this respect?
Oh, that's an interesting one. As you know, we pushed for the services directive and moved that along and tried very hard to try and get a level playing field across Europe, shall we say, as far as qualifications are concerned, or any qualifications in some cases. It's something I think almost every industry across Europe is suffering from, as far as that is concerned. Yeah, it's a tricky one, and I can see that there are pressures, shall we say, building. Certainly within the UK after the Grenfell fire, there's new legislation just going through at the moment that's going to ensure that everybody involved in the process of designing, building and maintaining a building, certainly high-rise buildings where the fire were, are going to need to have qualifications. So there's a big scramble for qualifications, and then the question starts to be, how good are those qualifications and what actually are there? It's a massive topic. And I think all we can do in Euralarm is really push that we're very keen to actually ensure that everybody involved in our industries are suitably qualified with their skills and knowledge for the job that they're actually doing. Yeah, and that may well have to, and it almost certainly have to vary from country to country, as different countries have different views on things, on these things, to how they actually go. But it's certainly something. Yes, there is a lack of expertise. And I plead to anybody who's watching this, who's maybe just starting on their career, get yourself some qualifications. It'll only do you good in the long run.
So you posed two questions. One of them, of course, Martin and I worked on, which is the qualifications. But I think your first question is, how do you attract enough people to jump into our field that maybe is not the most exciting to everybody? I think that is certainly a challenge. We've discussed that. We've discussed one of the possibilities, which is how do we attract younger people, and how do we attract also a more diversified staff, including women. Until now, it's more of a man's world. And how do we attract more people will be a focus that Euralarm will have to get involved in. The second one, which is what Martin and I worked on in the services section, is the qualifications. Is growing fast isn't good enough. People need to be qualified, and Martin's call I fully back. It isn't going fast, it's growing intelligently that will be necessary, and that's a challenge. I think that's a challenge in multiple ways. But in some ways, I think the fact that we're widening the scope of both the fire and the security with things such as artificial intelligence or cybersecurity or BIM, and adding those things to our field does make it maybe more attractive than the traditional field.
It's a nice challenges to close the interview with. Martin, is there anything that you would like Jon to know for his presidency?
I'll take it on.
You'll take it on. I think the nice thing about being the president is you're surrounded by a team of really good and talented people, from the professional team to the members that are coming from our members who are actually supporting that. I think everybody has the same goals, which is really good. I think as an industry, we're lucky to work in an industry that's very unified, and people are there. Whilst there are competition, obviously, between the different companies, we're all there for one thing, which is to obviously life safety and protection at the end of the day, and that's at the heart of everything. And I think everybody works in that general direction going forward. So I think that's one of the key things there. You're lucky as far as that's concerned, yeah. And don't try and do everything yourself is the other answer.
Do you have any advice for Martin, Jon?
Well, I don't. I think I would be kidding myself if I can give advice on your next steps, Martin. On the other hand, you're right about what you stated. You did leave me with a task that's much easier, having a strong staff, having a growing number of members, and also having a wider scope than what we had when you began, by adding the extinguishing, and there we'll have to see how we can strengthen that. So thank you for the advice, and thank you for that last piece of advice, not trying to do it all. I think I'll be able to handle that element of it.
Okay. Thank you both for the interview, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.